Today I want to talk about gun reform. Now obviously we know that gun violence is a big problem in America, but I have a solution, and that is make firearms training mandatory for all gun owners, or all would-be gun owners. So if you own a gun or you desire to own a gun, it's pretty simple. Treat gun ownership like we do driving. You have to undergo a training course. After you get your permit, then you have to get your license before you can get a gun. Very simple, right? And also, periodic psych evaluations for guns to make sure that you can still be trusted with one. If you're in psychological decline in any way, why, you'll have to have an eye kept on you, or it could limit you to how many guns you could have, or what kind of gun you could have, etc. And if you're full-blown senile, you're full-blown, you have dementia or something like that, well then unfortunately you couldn't own a gun, And the reason for this is for people's safety. So the way I have this in mind is, you basically, if you want to own a gun, what you should have to do at the national level, this should be a federal law, I believe, and that is that you undergo firearms training, okay? Much like driver's ed. So what would it entail? Well, it would entail the laws and consequences affiliated with guns and gun ownership and gun use, depending on which state you live in, as well as the federal level. And then you would also undergo the training of the weapons, which weapons there are, how to use them, when not to use them, learn how to clean them, stow them, take them apart, put them back together. You would learn about de-escalation. You would be trained in de-escalation first. You would learn how to disarm somebody who has a gun. And you would learn about how to be responsible when carrying a gun, how to keep it safe in your house, what it means to conceal carry, etc., things like that. And the reason for this is because I think that, and there are many examples around the world, two countries I can point to right now are Israel and Switzerland, where military service is mandatory. It's not mandatory in the United States, of course, but still, there's something to be said about everybody owning a gun and yet being trained, properly trained. And they have lower, Switzerland particularly has lower death rates, lower gun violent death rates, much lower. The United States, on the other hand, one of the highest gun violence death rate on the planet. But what happens when we train everybody who has a gun? Properly train them. Not only do you train them in using the weapons, but you also train them in pressure situations. Again, that goes to de-escalation. But what happens when you encounter an escalating situation and it can't really seem to go your way? What if you have to defend yourself? Well, understand that a weapon should be used as a last resort. Okay? De-escalation is always the first move. And that's why I say, you should be trained in how to make it so that your opponent is less likely to draw a weapon on you, keep a closer proximity to them. Learn how to disarm them if they do draw a weapon, or if you're at a distance, what best to do, and depending on the situation. So this is actually something that could be a lot of fun, Any of you guys who are martial arts buffs, you could probably attest, right? I'm actually going to give a link to a couple of videos at the end of this. But that's my take on how to quell gun violence in this country. Everybody who has a gun, everybody who wants a gun, they need to be trained first. They need to be properly trained. They have to be psychologically evaluated every period, depending on what period it is. Could be, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Could be issued by state. But that's my answer to that problem. Because we live in a world of guns. There's really no getting rid of guns, at least not in the immediate future. So I think statistics have shown that the best way to avoid gun violence is to properly train people, properly train them on how to use them, when to use them, when not to use them, emphasis on de-escalation, just like we do cops, right? Just like we do, or we're supposed to do the cops, I should say. That's part of what Campaign Zero is all about, part of what it is for reforming the police. So any civilian who owns a gun should be trained the same way, de-escalation first, how to keep your cool in a pressure situation, how to handle pressure when it does hit you, and an educated gun owner is far less likely to be irresponsible with it or even rash with it. So that's my 2 cents on that. If you all agree with this notion or this idea, go ahead and leave a comment, click like, share, and I'll be back later, guys. I got another video for you.